Hi, this is Chris, owner of Highline Handmade Guitars and Pickups. This is my latest custom-made do-it-yourself tool. It is a Luthier wood bending iron. You can buy these ready-made, but unfortunately they can get quite pricey if you've taken a look at them. They can run, $200 for your basic bending iron, all the way up to $500 to $600 for one of those fancy bending jigs that uses a silicone heating blanket. So I decided I was going to make my own bending iron, and like all the tools I make, the goal was to keep it simple, keep it cheap, but make it work. And I think I have achieved all those goals with this tool. The tube, the bending iron itself, is a steel pipe which I actually cut out of a leg for an old retired trampoline that's been sitting in my backyard. It's 1 3/4 inches in diameter and about 8 inches in length, and I think that's a pretty good size for a bending iron. Next, I stuffed the inside of the tube with aluminum foil, and when I say stuffed, I mean I really packed the stuff in there. I used a dowel rod and a hammer to really pack it in tightly, and I'll explain why in a few seconds. The mount is a couple of 3/4 inch thick maple V blocks which clamp the tube into a vise, and I can orient it horizontally, or I can flip it and go vertical. You'll notice the white blocks. Those are actually pieces of 1/4 inch thick Teflon which have been tacked to the wood with brad nails. The reason for that is I knew if I used wood to clamp this tube into place, the heat from the tube would scorch the wood. Teflon can withstand pretty high temperatures, usually 450 to 500 degrees, which is more than what I need. And so I use the Teflon to isolate the heat, or to at least to prevent the heat from conducting to the wood and scorching the wood. The method for heating the tube, I actually considered a couple of techniques. I thought about using a blowtorch, a heat gun, and I even looked at an electric charcoal starter, but they're too big. They don't fit into anything smaller than like a 3.5, 4 inch tube. Well, I ended up going with a cartridge heater. I picked up this cartridge heater on eBay for $3.70, and that included free shipping. It came from China. They have a lot of them on eBay, and they're all different shapes and sizes and different specifications, so you can really tailor a cartridge heater to your needs. This heater is 6 inches long. It's 5/16 of an inch in diameter, and it's 110 volts and 500 watts. Now 500 watts is pretty potent. You could probably back down to 150 and still get a pretty good heater. If you do go into the 500 watt range, it'll heat up the iron super fast, but you need to have some way to control the temperature, which I do, and I'll explain that in a second. Now that's the reason why I'm using the aluminum foil inside the tube. Cartridge heaters don't do a very good job of radiating heat. They get very, very hot, but that heat doesn't radiate. So you have to find a way to get the heat from the cartridge out to the walls of the tube. And the best way to do that is to conduct it. And I considered filling the tube with sand or filling it with BBs. And I ended up settling on aluminum foil because it's a much more efficient conductor. And by packing it in, I can drill a hole that's the same diameter as the cartridge and then slide the cartridge in. And that's what I did. There's a 5/16 inch hole drilled 6 inches into the tube, and that allowed me to slide that cartridge in there. Now the lead wires that connect to the back of the cartridge it's a fairly fragile connection. So I took a washer, which is actually a crimping washer from a buffing wheel. I've got a bunch of those laying around, and I stuck that inside the tube, and then I took one of these wall protecting door spring dealies, cut it shorter and slipped it on, so that kind of protects the the wire leads where they connect to the cartridge heater. Then I wired the leads up to the black and white leads of a 3-prong plug, which I clipped off of an old computer monitor. And I took the green ground wire, and ran that up, and that's screwed to the bottom of the tube, and that grounds the tube, because I was concerned that if I was touching the temperature control and then happened to touch the tube at the same time, I'd get electrocuted. So I grounded the tube for safety reasons. Then the plug itself plugs into my trusty router speed control that I picked up for 20 bucks years ago. I think I got it from Harbor Freight, and this thing works great. I just have to switch it to variable, and then I can use the knob to adjust the temperature. And because it's a 500 watt heater, I can keep the temperature down pretty low and still get really hot. And as you can see, this is a piece of maple scrap, flame maple scrap that I bent in it. It does work quite well. So I'll be anxious to try it out on some guitar sides. So I hope this video inspires you to build your own do-it-yourself bending iron. And yeah, that's it.